always in history the preclusions or foregone conclusions that what you say or what happened or what you actually say did happen or what actually happened they did tell you. And I don't know if you've read the history of Bechstein, the history of the Western world by Fernando Rey. Have you?
I've only read part of it, but not too much.
From the place of lost. Well, whatever you have there, I believe those who have read history of the Western world of society.
We never read it, madam.
Western culture, who may even tell you about it and so much as even be able to account for it. Well, what I have to tell you, you may not like. Well, be that as it may, you don't really need to. You can deduce it. Have ears.
Copyright is this amazing piece of jargon. What is this utter rubbish you've written here? Sorry, man. Oh, what is this copyright of Fernando Rey? Who is Fernando Rey? Oh, I know who it is. Great, well, we'll hear that one later. Ah, yes. It's in F, isn't it? But you can't sing it in F. No, I'll tell you about that later. What is it about 1415 that really impresses her? It is the fact that at Agincourt, William Shakespeare explains such glorious wall of death, doing so much less more truly understand all that the import-export business and the wall trade would do so much for him other than writing plays about it. The Bechstein import-export business flourishing and being demolished wherein the evolution of a democracy for the continent is founded in all that is much more than German, that so much as clearly be seen by Brand to encompass it. Fernando, the history of the idiot. The history by just the average piano player. That is the more average historian who enters the boatyard at Cambridge than only to find that there is water in this boat. That effectively places many a head of state of a small enterprise, just the kind of prime minister such as the future me may appoint, or you can less play the piano nor indeed know any one thing about that is really useful. For the appointment of by Parliament of her, by the Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli, the Princess Louise would be arriving in Halifax, Nova Scotia, a much daunting prospect for the average piano owner. There is much to be told by the specialist culinary host how great hoping you like, Your Majesty, and the oyster patty. So following a bout of scarlet fever, I thought it was not so much the lamb brain that you compliment me. Princess Louise made it, and this explains in part why Bechstein was scuppered as a brand at the Battle of Jutland in World War I. In part, the concert piano player Franz Liszt dissolved of service may be as much demuted or dissolved or demoted where in any service of any use to an average musician. Get thee in E, Josephine. Get thee in E, for sharp be thee. that places the history of the international concert pianist in some doubt. As the songs about which explain truth are more those of Schubert, Franz Schubert, than those of, say, His Grace Elton John. That the history of the causes of World War I were founded at Sarajevo the 28th of June 1914 in the assassination of Archduke Ferdinand of Austria, that the average historian will give as much in some degree utter rubbish. Her Royal Highness Princess Louise, now from 1878 to 1883 in the service of the Dominion, that is Canada, explains the reasons the democracies of that is this the more immediate than that A Utopia by the late Thomas More of 1815. No. But its utopia was explained by Waterloo of 1815. No, I'm referring to the A Utopia by the Thomas More under the reign of His Majesty King Henry VIII, who was from 1509 to 1547, composed a utopia in 1516. Whereby are more founded reasons the democracies of that is the more immediate than that a utopia that ratify in any sense the lands that breed wisdom as a democracy. Such would be a theology of such quaint entity. I found that I could even not so much encompass this so easily as to watch any one of you more easily play the piano. The entity that created the breed, that is Bechstein, whether founded in 1863, is of no matter, as much as it is may be deemed to be or not to be in any authoritative quarter as suitable reply for the less well-educated, that the history of so much King Henry VIII is as much the abomination to the democracy as who is president of the rights of man. As such, the causes, as you know, were many of World War I, that this fellow thinks they were founded in approximately 850 AD. This is because the causes and the effects of enterprise, and we are told, aren't we, that in the formation of the Holy Roman Empire is not to be confused with Roman Empire, Latin Sacrum Romanum Imperium, German Heiliges Reich, was a multi-ethnic complexity wherein territory has to be or not to be border, in a continuing process of deliverance of administrations which at the best of time confused politics with religion, music with the affairs of the church, in confrontations which some people fail to understand is as much with the soul. Dissolution is an erroneous to as much menace as made war the death or the birth of any piano, albeit Bechstein. That until the dissolution of the Holy Roman Empire in 1806 by the affairs of Bonaparte can clearly more be seen the causes in part whose failings of England and whose Hanoverian and earlier stages did imbibe. Whose might be given over to the seas no greater performer or historian than the more justly, if this average non-name, Fernando. Ray does not think the concerts of Franz Liszt were great as those of Marquis Lawn, whose performances internationally by his grades explain the might that is becoming as England represented by Scotland, so justly or unjustly may be measure of as estranged in some Princess Alice and Duke husband of Hesse-Darmstadt, wherein as much you see does so make those against this emperor so afflicted to the pages of the more sinful, that England is as much in continuum provided in Bechstein so much courage, that the fierce quality which that was 300 years before, seeing the executive power of evolution extinguishing itself. By from 1558 that under Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth I, acquiring in Mary Queen of Scots, who was a staunchly Catholic, to become imprisoned as much for her belief for her own benefit, that may provide in part this sell her concert. This is because Princess Alice, daughter of Queen Victoria, had a husband, Louis IV, Frederick Wilhelm Ludwig Karl, 1837 to 1892, who fought on the Austrian side in the 1866 7 Weeks' War, which was 2 months 9 days, thereafter fought on the Prussian side in the Prussian-Franco War of 1870-71. Both wars were approximating the effects of about the balance of once national factions of the Habsburg Empire and those affiliations with the Holy Roman Empire in which it was imbibed, and those of the changes which were making Prussian many smaller states of them into the confederation that might one day be called Germany. These included Baden, Württemberg, Bavaria and Hesse-Darmstadt, where Princess Alice and Grand Duke of Hesse Frederick Louis lived. This was a mission to form into an alliance with Prussian-dominated North German Confederation. In this, the history of Bechstein in fact goes back, as you see, way beyond its brand. Rothschild. The first to use the name was Isaac Elshman Rothschild in 1577. The sum portend by affection by wealth was no to nurture any less Mozart and bring him to England. Were the affinities which Salzburg held in the French portions of state and Catholicism something increasingly more hard to understand as the years edge on. Notwithstanding the onslaught of the mental might of Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart, 1756-91, it was Frankfurt am Main which would at strong influence since 1850 AD, wherein Holy Roman Empire gave the might helping hand to the maestro. The banking family fortunes were founded in Frankfurt am Main, and these were present as money changers. The city was special in the performing mind of Mozart and his family of musicians, as Leopold was the court violinist of the Duke of Salzburg. The printing press had been founded near here in Napoleon Bonaparte of Mainz in the mid to late 15th century, approximately 1450-70. Napoleon Bonaparte. Frankfurt was bombarded by French troops on several occasions, succumbing in 1805-6 to such total collapse of the Holy Roman Empire, up to then having still been a free city, was now that has become part of the unification of the Rhine. This situation thence lasting until 1813-14, when under the Treaty of Paris when the United Kingdom achieved the expulsion of Napoleon Bonaparte and deposed this Emperor of France. The move of the pianoforte away from this Viennese and Frankfurt culture was due to this encompassing of Berlin, which initially the place and the seat of Chancellery had been Weimar. But the culture was due to this encompassing more of Berlin, when they are told that Bechstein was even founded, aided in no mean extent by the influences in the force of Princess Alice, daughter of Queen Victoria. Was due to this encompassing more of Berlin, when they are told that Bechstein was even founded, aided in no mean extent by the influences in the force of Princess Alice, daughter of Queen Victoria, and her husband Frederick Wilhelm Ludwig IV, living nearby in Hesse-Darmstadt. Frederick, born in 1837, the year after Her Majesty Queen Victoria had come to the throne in England, and lived till 1892. Moreover, 50 years later, Frederick would fight in the 1866 for the Austria part of the Austro-Prussian War, which was a 7 weeks war of 2 months, 9 days. Thereafter, in 1870-71, he changed sides and fought in what is known as the Franco-Prussian War, a little under a year, fighting for the Prussian force, which, changing his allegiance to fight for the Prussians, it was by this effectively which gave rise to the new Germany, that which was witnessed by British Prime Minister Benjamin Disraeli in 2 periods of office, that from firstly 1874 to 1880, and leader of the opposition from 1880 to 81. The German Chancellery ministry had been since early the 1860s under the jurisdiction of the Emperor Wilhelm I, in the formation of, through his Chancellor, Foreign Minister Otto von Bismarck, was from 1871 as Chancellor to 1890. Such is an irony that might accuse one dictator more than the other for building the might of Prussia, which existed as some 100 of smaller states into a confederation of a new Germany. This as much was more formally becoming golden age for Bechstein, and the pianos were exported internationally and under some license to royal palaces, which in regional terms was also the mission on part Napoleon Bonaparte, Emperor of France and saviour of its country and its border, were attempted and achieved in part by this confederation of the Rhine. However, that much had either taken the piano away from Italy, whence its invention, and Austria, from which its prowess explained of Mozart, Wolfgang Amadeus, which had invented it. Or it had brought sciences to some achievement to its manufactured ethos, which included such as the iron frame. For a major war, too, which severe in world, is also something of a myth. That, considering the total mass by where conflict in some number of allegiances, those which multifaceted issues as created sides in the 1866 Austro-Prussian War, for instance, lead to a movement toward Berlin, where the company achieved its one-time base. The bust that about his love as the origin of the species of lover and father bank, the becoming statue of Bechstein from before Frederick III, that happy and gay relationship of the court sculpture of John the Marquis of Lorne, educated at the public school, husband to Princess Louise of the United Kingdom, till that unhappy day in 1883 when she became enrolled and embroiled in this classes of sculptor, having returned from Canada, Nova Scotia, Halifax, and unto had fate what Joseph Edgar Bond put on Hyde a Park numbered batch that Hyde Park coroner. The enterprise of musicianship of Princess Louise and her studies at Fulham Road when, on the 12th of December 1890, who was there when he, Joseph Edgar Bond, died. That which explains some degree as to what kind of relationship these two had was explained more than fore-war. However much was bestowed by RHINE. Of the Florence Nightingale, which was unlike the knowledge of the British so much as to what it is about evolution that make her one's age want pal to join as boys at public school. What is it about that you play, those virginals, that presents here the inventor of love, that your honour comes so much befit for a king and becoming of Karl Marx, whose ardent performance as a musician is explained in Diaghilev's Ballet of the Russes so much that founding of Rothschild. Which expounds to a claim to greatly refrain from silence when no other can contain such timbre by such her touch, by such her might to sustain, so her portly just pretty build wherein many piano of her, for this as by her piano lent.
Aren't you?
Have you got them to room yet?
I have a clue.
Do you want to?
It's a dulce. Robinson, you're trying to aren't you?
Have you got them to room yet?
I have it.
Do you want to? I'll get undressed now, is that alright?
Sure.
from common home to concert hall, but who's witnessing failures of Russian wine, sees the king of pianos as Princess Louise, to whom this nobility so dedicates by her end, that now in 1939 was at Kensington Palace, whose ashes later spread via Golders Green crematorium, and at Windsor, that Präsidentierin dann es will nicht gestalt und Klavier ist reduxtes Gesticht dieses gewesen wird. Did they then much no less proudly present what is piano, whereby that became the history of this, the art of Bechstein.
Robinson, you're trying to seduce me, aren't you?
Have you gotten to room yet?
I haven't.
Do you want to? I'll get undressed now. Is that all right?
But mine, mon ami, not fit for aching. Not fit for aching. Explain more your. Who killed Richard III and watched them play it? Who uses effect by Bechstein unites destroyed once some. 1916. She don't even have to try, does she? Tre parole del Ammiraglio. 3 words from the Admiral will even see them play it. Admiral, she play a piano in 12 major keys, 12 minor keys. Give to them these keys. Give to them these keys. Watch them, these sailors, as if to sail as admirably the Admirable Crichton from J.M. Barrie 1902 play, the comedy of the same name, lends pathos to this image of Britannia to a monarch that as much sends ships even to Trafalgar and via Cadiz to demote a nation a word from its truer emperor. And I will show Icarus excellence par niente. Thank mon ami. They really needed that. But I, as on another day, failed, which not will be her epitaph, is, I worship him. You neither see nor sought her ability, but all the more she don't care, and this is why. Effecting pathos, this expression Stockhausen for all time finds inadequate, major, minor. What this parity gives to fishes for justice is Linda Zonderschen Lieder, leads into the German songs Who, songs of Spiegmann upon as Cleat, Jon Bechstein. The irony of who tell you less exceeds so much the more why they will not. Consider this, and it is not founded in any means by so much, truthfully, always as ignorance. It may be founded in why they marry, then afraid to tell you anything, albeit will not tell you. They write.
Do you want to? I'll get undressed now, is that alright?
They write no more than a sentence, and in some cases the auction is so few words, much gift of love. Is not that love innocence, which be the love that confers such honour that merits, those conversely diversely cajole, converge on love such explains the right as to how you may even play it for yourself. That one tyranny supplants one other, that sells you therein whose piano, whose excellence. Really, can one may ask, even be so much as surprised? You may see by 3 words about a car, yet you cannot in any transportation through time, that you do not have to, in the art correspondence of the time, to realize that you do not have to be the definitive derivative of some airline or Lufthansa, to prove in one theology it never existed, and in another existence it exists, but wherein brand, by so dubious authority, its current corporation cannot even recognize itself. That is so true when you sell your car. There is so much about it that you will give in more than those 3 words. It is good. Why, everybody knows who sold you the ability to be everywhere, to do everything almost on earth as it is in heaven. But you happen to be dying on the racetrack, it is in another story. Should ignorance as much as when they do not perceive it, what is theology, so much makes the admirable Crichton, less divine they should less tell you about, when I was dying before the audience in the Rachmaninoff. So you see that truth is that theology whose skill is interpreting the manner of the invention that created the internal combustion engine. You all may perceive likewise to realize be so wonderful, and as many realize that invention is killing you. That conversely, that you do less realize or see il pianoforte being sold, you should, if you to not kill, you belies the fact that we are, as an inventor, dying once you call yourself an inventor. That the seller will know, however, how much it is killed reacts to the crusade of attending so aptly as Alan Partridge paid or played or never played by such homage by Steve Coogan, that to explain to them, and you will find out when you take the list for the MOT what is justice, for the truth is as you explain. There is no such thing as theology. You want it simple. Keep it simple. Church is some place built of stone. That is all. That is all. and you can perceive by some performance. That is all. Built of stone. A church built of stone than a people. Interesting. I don't think in any halls could be called theology. That by Steve Coogan, when presented by his body